I recently watched an interview of an influencer. He comes from a rich family, and he was sharing his experience about growing up with rich parents. And he was saying that when it was his birthday, his parents never even said happy birthday. But when he would wake up, there was like a pile of cash next to him. And as he was saying this, he started crying, and he was saying that his parents were emotionally unavailable. But there was this pile of cash. And I started reading the comments, and people were like, oh, poor thing, you had so much money, but parents didn't say happy birthday. I wish I had your problems. I was like, I understand not being able to relate to those problems. I understand minimizing those problems and discrediting those people's experience, because for the majority of people, money could probably solve 99% of your issues. And that's why I personally try to not complain about things online, because I understand that my problems are very privileged type of problems. Internet is definitely not a safe space for rich kids to complain about their problems. But I think there is a problem in that. Because when we do not understand each other, we can't relate to each other and we cannot have a conversation. It's very easy to find differences. But what's more difficult is to find common ground. And today, I want to tell you some stories of my rich friends whose lives are beyond messed up. But the majority of people do not feel bad for them because those are privileged problems. I always say that I think the biggest privilege of my life is not only my parents' wealth, but their love. And I cannot emphasize this enough. I'm probably 0.00001% of lucky people who have emotionally available and wealthy parents. Because most of my friends do not have this luxury. And growing up with emotionally unavailable parents, some of you might probably know this experience, it's fucking heartbreaking. But when you have rich parents, you can't even say anything because the manipulation in those families is absolutely insane. Because no matter how bad they act, they paid for your education, they got you a car. And remember when you wanted to have this huge sweet 16 and they paid so much money and they invited all of your friends. And then usually those rich type of parents, they show up at this event, they bring a lot of flowers, and in front of everybody, they give you something expensive because they love praise. They love praise from other people. And that's what you have to understand about the majority of rich parents. They do not like building the actual connection, but they like the praise which they get. There are two types of rich kids when it comes to toxic families, right? There are two ways you can go. The first way is that you become financially independent from them and you do not rely on them. But it's very hard, guys, because a lot of people say that like, oh, if I would have toxic parents, I would make sure that I never communicate with them, they do not have any control over my life, and so on and so forth. But do you understand how hard it is? If you've ever been in very comfortable situation, very comfortable position, you've already seen the world, you know what it's like to be very comfortable. And on top of that, you have all of your friends who are still your friends and who are still doing all of those cool things, and now you no longer literally can afford to be their friend. So when you're making a decision to stop taking money from your parents, you're not just getting rid of your comfortable environment. You're going so outside of your comfort zone that you're leaving your community. It's so rare because so little people are willing to give up their comfort. And I don't blame them. But that brings me to the second group of friends. The ones who have toxic parents and who stay in touch with them because they keep on giving them money. And this leads to a lot of fucking mess. So I had a friend who was studying abroad in UK, and as he was in university, his parents started getting a divorce. He didn't know who was at fault, he didn't know anything. And as he was in university, he was getting a monthly allowance because a lot of kids who are in university, they do not have access to a huge sum of money, they get like a monthly allowance. So his mom found out that he calls his dad occasionally. And it's not that he was close with either his mom or his dad, it just, he called him. And I guess dad bragged about it to the mom's face and she got super upset with the kid and she just stopped sending him money. So he was calling his mom for a couple of days, she was ghosting him, she was giving him silent treatment, and he had to pay for his apartment. So the landlord started coming to him and he was like, well, where's the payment? And he was like, I'm sorry, like I'm going through something, I will send it to you like the moment I get it. The landlord was understanding, so it was good. But 2 days later, he calls his mom again and she picks up like nothing is wrong. And he's like, hey, like, where have you been? I was worried, like, what's wrong? And she started telling him things like, why don't you call your father? And the father, just so you understand, is living his own life. The father is not a very present dad either. He's going through a divorce. He is now 20 years old. He's living his best life. He's on the bender. He doesn't even remember that he has kids, okay? So the mom is saying something along the lines, oh, why didn't you call your dad? I heard that you guys are close. She's using her child being close, even though he was never close, with his father against him. And he was like, all right, like, I don't know what's going on between you guys and I don't want to be a part of it. And she was like, no, you are a part of it. You are a part of this family. And she said, until you take an official side in the family, you're not going to get any money. And he was like, I have to pay for an apartment. And she was like, yeah, well, then you'll have to take a side. And he was fucking flabbergasted. He called me, he called some of his friends, and we paid for his apartment that month. But he told the landlord that he will have to break the lease because he can no longer afford this place. And I remember we had a conversation with him and he asked, do you think I'll be able to make it by myself? And I remember as he asked that, I was thinking, he's a very smart guy. Like, he's probably one of the smartest people I know. But I was like, he doesn't know real world. He's never been a part of a real world. He is so used to luxury. He didn't have any internship experiences because what you have to understand about rich kids is that they have this illusion that they will never have to work. Or if they will work, they will not have to apply to a job. They will either work for Baba or they will work for Baba's friend. That's why when everybody else is doing summer internships, they're partying in Mykonos because they're like, we don't have to do this, we will easily get the job. And he didn't have the work experience. I was like, listen, dude, I believe you'll be able to do this because you're capable of absolutely anything, but are you ready to downgrade your lifestyle? And he was like, yes, I'm ready. So he flew back to his home country because he couldn't afford to live in UK. He was splitting rent with his friend because he got the job at that point. He was working like on a small business with his friend, they were doing pretty well. But at that time, he stopped talking to his parents and he made it pretty clear that he doesn't want to be a part of that family anymore. So at some point, that business started having problems and they didn't understand why. Like, everything was going great. It's not that they were making millions, but they were making pretty decent money. And then fire department started visiting them. And they were saying, oh, this is wrong, we're gonna close your place. Then police started coming to them. Then some lawyers started coming to them and they were finding all of the mistakes which they've done, so they closed the business. Who sent those people? The fucking mother. They literally had to close the business. And then he started applying to jobs in the big companies. That bitch, forgive me God, blacklisted her son in the entire fucking country so he cannot get the job. She was saying that if you will take him, I will like close my contracts with you, I will make your life live in hell. And she could do that. She could do that. She had that influence. She's a very rich fucking woman. And on top of her being rich, her father, meaning his grandfather, was a very well-known man, okay? So they were not even afraid of her, even though she had influence. They were afraid of a grandfather. And that's why they literally blacklisted that guy from getting any fucking job. She made sure that he cannot get money pretty much anywhere in this country, outside of his family. The rumor spreads fast, so our friend group found out about this, and we were like, dude, you will have to leave this country, and you will have to go somewhere else, because you will not be able to make it here until she's alive. Like, it's gonna be impossible. So he ended up moving back to UK. He moved there and he started applying to all of the jobs, but it was also challenging, because, by the way, he also didn't have a degree, because in the middle of all of this, he finished the semester, but the next semester wasn't paid for. Once again, a lot of people will ask, why didn't he call dad? Why didn't he call his grandparents? Guys, in those families, nobody gives a fuck. It's not that you cannot rely on one person, but you can rely on the other one. It's a general family dynamic. You cannot rely on anybody. So they just didn't care. And a grandfather, for example, also thought that he had to take the mom's side and he didn't want to mess with her discipline methods, whatever the fuck that means. Anyways, he moved back to UK. Let's talk about friendships in moments like this. Because in the beginning, everybody was supporting him because people could relate to him. All rich kids had this type of moment when you say, oh my God, yes, parent, I don't like you. I'm not gonna take any money from you. everybody had this period for like 1 or 2 months, but then their friends would have to fly to Monaco and you would call your dad and you'd be like, actually, let's make up and I need money, I'm going to Mykonos or Monaco, wherever with my friends. And everybody thought that this is exactly what's happening with this guy. That's why they felt like they could relate to him. I think they thought that if they will be generous to him right now, and he's the son of a billionaire, then he will repay them. Not directly, he will not give them money, but when they will need some favors, he will give those favors. That's why for the first few months, people, his friends, were very generous with him. They were covering for him, they were paying for his plane tickets, they were letting him stay at his house, they were trying to give him some opportunities. But then they would want to go out like they always do. They would want to go to the club and pay $10,000 per table. And he was like, I can't do that. And they were like, you're boring. And then they would be like, okay, we will pay for you, just come, just join us. But then people started being sick of paying for him. And he also, it's not that he even wanted to go. Every time he would say, no, I'm not gonna go because I can't afford it. And they were like, no, come. At some point, everybody has enough and people are like, well, we're just not gonna invite him. And then relationships started growing apart because then winter time came along, everybody went skiing, everybody went to the most expensive resorts, and he couldn't do it. So here's the thing. That's what I was trying to explain. When you stop taking money from your parents, you grow away from your community. Rich kids think that if you're not taking money from their parents, you're trying to show off, you're trying to shame them for their lifestyle. And they started being annoyed with this because they were like, oh, he's just trying to act like he's better than us, that unlike us, he's not taking money from his parents, but at the same time, he can't fucking afford shit. He's taking everything from his friends. And long story short, he was able to make it. He's doing really fucking well right now. And he now no longer talks to all of those friends who pretty much dropped him. But then here's the thing. He got rich and all of a sudden, his mom started reaching out because she gained respect for him. And she started saying that she was never meant to be mean to him. It was just a test. She saw a lot of potential in him, and she knew that if he was comfortable, then he wouldn't be able to achieve what he has done now by himself. And some of you might think, oh my God, what a wise mother. She did all of this just so her son can fulfill his potential. Guys, the manipulations in those families are insane. I, for a matter of fact, know that that was not her master plan. She didn't have that plan. She just didn't give a fuck about that kid. Because I know that my parents want to see my full potential as well, okay? Never in my life, my parents would give me silent treatment, ghost me, almost make me beg my friends for money, have me at the risk of being homeless, while they keep on living comfortable. It's not a test, it's emotional abuse. And then she started reaching out to him and she tried to make up, but he can't do that. And a lot of parents of our friends, because it's like a big story, they were saying, well, he has to forgive his mother because it's a mother, and how can you stay in a bad relationship with your mother? I don't want to say what I would do, because it's always easy to say what I would do if I was in your place. You never know how you would act. And never say, I would do this if I was in your place, because karma is real and it will actually test your character. It will put you in this position and it will see your true colors, how you would actually act. I don't know. It's very hard for me to say what I would do because I'm so close with my parents and I cannot even imagine myself being in such situation. But at the same time, life has shown me that some people do not deserve a second chance. And you would like to think that it doesn't relate to parents, but if it costs you your mental health, your peace, then you should leave. I don't know, it's a very hard subject for me. What would you do, guys? Would you make up with the mother? Write in the comments, and also please like and subscribe because it helps our channel to get promoted. Now let's make a little bit of a contrast. The majority of my friends who are rich kids, what does their lifestyle even look like? When I was younger, I took a lot of pride in the fact that, well, I come from a rich family, but at the same time, I worked in corporate America. I worked 5 years. I had bosses, which in my head, when I was 18, to think that I would have bosses, anybody who's not my dad, it would almost be shameful to me. And then I was like, yes, I can do this. I can have bosses. I can work in corporate America. And it was like It was my entire personality. I know it sounds funny for normal people, but to me, having a corporate job was a flex. A lot of my friends were thinking that my family is going through some shit, and that's why I have a job. They sincerely couldn't believe why would I need a job unless I actually need money. And I actually wanted to get that experience. I was like, this is gonna be my life challenge, to get a job. Let's get back to the majority of rich kids. They see job as something shameful. Unless they're working for family business, they're working in a very cool industry. Usually it has something to do with logistics or with gas and oil or like natural resources, that type of stuff. And usually they work with either family or family friends. And their salaries are ridiculous. If you watch Succession, it's type of thing like Greg.
You? 200K? The highest paid assistant in human history?
Greg is an assistant who's making 200K per year and also has bonuses and goes on vacations for free and so on and so forth. They kind of have a job, but in reality now they call their allowance as a salary. Nothing really changes. They keep on doing the same things, but now they also have 1 or 2 meetings per week. And they do not shut the fuck up about this because they think that they're so fucking important, and they look at other people like who don't come from privileged families and they're like, oh my god, they're 25 and they're only making 60K per year. I make 400,000. Yeah, bitch, but you don't even have a real job. And if you think that you were able to do this because you're extremely smart or you have some skills on the market which nobody else has, it's just ridiculous. But they convince themselves that they're so important because we as humans want to believe that we're important. So some of those rich kids, they do work. Others, they pretend to have a business. This category. They pretend to have a business like a media production, the most spoiled type of rich kid business. Yes, that's very common, guys. A lot of rich kids say, I want to be a designer, I want to be a producer. And their parents understand, yeah, okay, as long as you don't bother me and you have something to do, I'm fine with sponsoring your lifestyle. The way it worked with me and my parents, I'm actually going to share some personal information with you right now. I quit my job and I told my dad that I'm gonna start this production. I had no idea how much all of this costs. I had no fucking idea. I was like, oh, I'm gonna just record cool videos, I'm gonna hire a fucking team and it's gonna be cool. My parents wanted me to buy an apartment and I was like, shit, I have a lot of money. And in the beginning, when I was spending money on this production, if you look at our first season, guys, do you know how much this set design costed? Like $10,000. And I was like, yeah, fuck it. $10,000 here, $10,000 there, 10,000. And then I was like, do I still have money for an apartment? And then I called my dad and I was like, dude, listen, turns out this is an expensive business and profits are literally nowhere to be seen. So can you send me some more? And my dad was like, yes, if you show me your business model. And I'm like, bro, you can ask me about something creative. Don't fucking ask me about numbers. I was offended by that. I was like, the guy is in my business. Stay in your lane, sir. Anyways, my dad was asking for that business plan for a year. And meanwhile, he was still sending me more money, okay? And then, luckily, thank God, I figured out how to make money on all of this shit and I was able to start profiting from this. But I was even scared to show my dad how much I'm spending on this. And just listen to this. My dad sent me so much money that he didn't know how much I'm spending, and I had the luxury to spend shit tons of money without my parents even understanding how much I'm spending. Like, that's a huge luxury because when you have real investors, shit, you really know your business model, you know every spending. At some point, I didn't even know how much money I spent on this business. And then one time I counted this and I was like, Jesus, I should have bought an apartment. There are type of rich kids who are just doing this, like they're starting their business. And most of the parents, they don't care. They just send them money and they're like, yeah, as long as you don't bother me, just don't talk to me, do your thing, have fun. But my dad, apart from giving me money, he also mentored me, and he's still mentoring me. Shout out to you, Baba. And I guess that's the difference overall in toxic parents and in parents who care about their child. They support them along the way. They want them to succeed. They want them to become independent eventually. That's the biggest difference. Toxic parents, toxic rich parents, they do everything in order to keep you dependent on them. Healthy rich parents support you, give you very often way too much money, too much trust, too much respect, because they believe that if you will have this full-on support, eventually you will make it by your own. And even if you don't, you tried, and that's something to be proud of. And that support which you have as a child makes you so confident, makes you free. It's a very unique type of privilege. So I hope you enjoyed this yapping session. My food is now cold, but I guess I'll start eating. Thank you for watching this. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what topic you want me to discuss next. And as always, do whatever you want with this information.